All right, Pentaxians, Paxtonians, I don't know what you're called. We're going to do a little, I guess we'll call it the 5-day initial impressions review of this K1 Mark II that I unboxed a week ago. Apparently, you guys all think I'm nuts, which is probably true. Or there's a lot of like closet Pentax fans out there, because that view is getting a lot of videos, a lot of views, like 9,000. And so I want to give my initial impressions. And listen, I'm always honest about these things, so I might upset you in this one, or I might make you happy, or maybe you'll just be like, yeah, no crap, Sherlock, that's why. Never mind. I'll just hold off on that. Okay, let me give you the things I like so far about this camera, because I've had some time to play with it, and there's a lot to love about this camera, and then there are some key critical things not to love. All right, we'll start with the things I do like, and I won't even talk about the lens yet. I'll talk about the lens at the end. But in terms of the camera itself, it is a big, hefty camera, but it does everything I want it to do in terms of not being the computer on a camera that everything is nowadays. Yes, it's got a screen and it's digital, don't get me wrong, but all the buttons on the back here are just incredible for getting to whatever you need to do quickly without having to menu dive. I think literally I could go in here, and outside of a couple special use cases, I could never menu dive. Everything from like the autofocus, manual focus switch, this autofocus mode button on the side. I reprogrammed this raw FX1 button, I think to white balance or something like that, right? You got your exposure compensation up top. You've got your ISO right there. You can turn the light on the camera, live view, metering modes, drive selection, timer, just a billion scene if you wanted to shoot JPEG and change that. Everything you want is a button on here, and that's exactly what I was kind of looking for in terms of that. And it's really, really awesome for that. The camera is built probably better than any camera I've held in a long time, and I'll put that right next to the side of Leica. It's got the build quality, maybe even superior to that, of like what I would call the Olympus EM1, OM1 cameras. I thought those were built really, really well. I think Fuji's X-H2 cameras are built really well as well. Leica's SL2, those cameras are built really well. And when you pick those types of cameras up, you just are like, this thing, it just feels super solid. All the ports line up well, the flaps are awesome, they're beefy, they're robust. Nothing about this camera screams cheap, and everything about this camera screams built to last for a long, long time. So that's really, really good. The viewfinder is nice and bright, so I enjoy that. The grip and the ergonomics are absolutely sublime. Like I said in my opening review video when I first grabbed it, the ergonomics are fantastic. They are really, really, really good. And so it just makes you want to sit here, hold on to it like this. This is comfortable. It's extremely comfortable. Even if it's a heavy camera, this is extremely comfortable. I think this rear screen, I mean, obviously if I was doing video with something like that, I would want more, but like in terms of actual photography, this is, what a cool screen this is. Like the fact it does like this lunar telescope thing, and it tilts up like this. Probably super expensive to make, that's why nobody else does it, but really, really cool camera. Battery life is good. It being a DSLR doesn't surprise me, and I'm coming from a perspective of, you know, mirrorless cameras, especially this Fuji X-E5 I'm recording on right now, which has not great battery life. Just everything about the camera is really, really interesting to hold physically. I love almost everything about it physically. I'll talk about one thing I don't love in the future here. In terms of image quality, awesome. It shoots DNGs, or I put it in DNG anyways, and I edited these in Capture One. I also edited them in Lightroom. I feel like Capture One actually processes the colors a bit better for this camera. But the the files are fantastic. It partly has to do with the lens, which we'll talk about in a second. The files are absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now I bought this combination, the body, the camera grip, you know, and all the different stuff, and the lens for like just over $2,000, I think it was. Okay. And so that's kind of what we have to think about for a second when we talk about things we like and don't like. And I think the price overall for what you get is pretty good. Save a couple critical issues. Oh, one last thing. I think this is a really, really cool way of making a kind of a custom wheel work. I love having this wheel impact this wheel. So this is what makes me never have to go menu dive. I think this is a really, really good thing. If I want to turn the Wi-Fi on, so I can do like image transfer through Rico's app, I just put this dial to Wi-Fi, One turn, and now my Wi-Fi's on. No menu diving. Fantastic. But then I'm done with it. I want to go continuous high, continuous low shooting. Just turn it right there. Turn the wheel one time. We're doing that. You want to go to bracketing, HDR, right? You want to do a crop mode. You just use this dial, and then you turn this once to make those changes. Absolutely phenomenal implementation. You never have to menu dive. All the things I want to do are right here. And then if you want this wheel to be your ISO dial, you just leave it right there on ISO. Or you move it to exposure compensation if you're shooting something like aperture priority. Fantastic, absolutely great. And I think just in general, this camera is super, super well thought out. However, not all is perfect in the world, and there is a major, major flaw that is giving me major pause that I need to talk about. This is not it, but I want to talk about things now that I don't like or I think that are weird. When I first got the camera, I thought this locking wheel was pretty cool, okay? And it is from the perspective of like, you can either have it being a push down and turn wheel, which is, I guess, cool, or you can unlock it with this switch right here, and now it's a free spinning wheel, okay? That's pretty cool. But in reality, it's probably over-engineered. I think it's Olympus does it for sure on their OM3. I think Fuji does it on their XT cameras. Just the pop-out pin, right? You pop it in, you lock it, you pop it out and free spin it. Probably a simpler implementation. Nothing to knock it about, but maybe overcomplicated here. It is cool. They're the only ones that do it, but probably a better way to do it. So I would agree 100% with that. Other bad thing, I did have an issue, and I updated my firmware afterwards, where I was shooting pictures on Halloween, and a couple times it shot a photo and then it didn't save. It just sat there with this blue like wheel, and then like it froze, and I popped the battery. It happened once only actually, and then it was fine the rest of the time. I don't know if that's like a memory card issue, or this camera got shipped with an older firmware and I didn't realize it until afterwards, and so I went home and I downloaded the most recent firmware, which I think is version 2.5. and it hasn't done it since. So that was another thing that kind of threw me off. It was out, of course, when I was trick-or-treating. But here comes the key piece of this. The autofocus on this camera, continuous autofocus, actually just single autofocus, it's not good, you guys. It's not good. And I don't know if this is a combination of my lens needing a calibration. So many photos I took, and I'll insert a video here of me showing you what I mean, were front focused. So let me pause here and insert that. All right, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I had an autofocus single with this small little box, and I focused on her eye. Obviously, it's not sharp. What it looks like is maybe it hit the glasses right here, which is possible. The reason why I say that is because if you move down, right here, you can see like every single thread in her sleeve, which is in front of her, and this bear is in focus too. This is at f4, okay? If you go up to this one, which is at f1.9, it's the same thing here, until the eye is not in focus. But if you scroll down, every single hair on this little bear is very sharp. And even if you look kind of like right here on the edge where it might be the same focal plane as his eye, you can see the threads on her sleeve. But I know for a fact that I had AFS with the small dot right here. So is it front focusing? How do you fix that? Okay, so after that issue, I went and did some lens calibration. I put the lens, I think, to -7. There's like a plus and a minus, and it seemed to get a little bit better. But like the camera I thought was front focusing, I thought it was the lens. But I noticed a lot of times, especially when you get a little bit of dusk light, it just misfocused completely. And I was shooting on like AFS with a single point. So I don't even feel like I was putting it in hard conditions where I had like 8 boxes and I was using AFC. No, this was a single point. I was pinpointing on an eye. And even when I pinpoint on an eye, I wasn't getting super tack sharp images. It was always just a little front focused or a little back focused. And that's kind of frustrating because the image quality on this camera is tremendous. It's some of the best I've ever shot, honestly. And this lens has a beautiful rendering. And so I was like, oh man, I just want that sharpness. And I know the sharpness is there because in that video I just showed you, you can see like the threads on the clothing and how sharp the lens could be. And so that was a big issue. The second thing is that autofocus continuous on this camera, I've seen in forums where people have used this camera to shoot sports, and maybe it's the lens. So I'll give a caveat to that. Maybe I need a new, more modern, Pentax lens, but it is not good. So I just did some fun little tests with my wife and my daughter, my son, and I'll spare you the pictures. You gotta just trust me on this one because my wife didn't want me to show the pictures. But probably a 30% hit rate in continuous autofocus, right? If I put a continuous autofocus, even on a smaller box, and it's on the subject, it just can't keep up. It just can't keep up fast enough. Shooting at the high frame rates, which I think is like 5 frames per second, it couldn't keep up. And so this kind of herein lies my dilemma with the camera so far after 5 days. I love the build quality. It is hefty, and that maybe probably limits me how much I'll take it out. But for the times I want intentional use, the ergonomics are fantastic. The build quality is fantastic. The image quality is fantastic. This lens is tremendous in terms of its rendering and output. But it's also not usable for sports, in my opinion. It's not usable for video. And so it really makes it kind of a specialist camera. If you're a landscape photographer, or you do still portraits, or a lot of still life, I think this camera is awesome. I really do. I love looking through an OVF. I love having all the buttons easily accessible to things you want to do, not have to menu dive. I legitimately think I could go in this camera and never menu dive when using it. And that is saying something in a world where most modern cameras have you diving for all sorts of crap in the menus. I hate that. And so I'm perplexed. I'm a little bit unsure of what to do, because for over $2,000 I spent, I don't shoot a ton of landscape. I do shoot portraits. Is it worth it for that? But man, oh man, do I want to keep this lens. And I love the image quality. And so I'm a little perplexed on that. This is just my first 5-day findings, like I said. And it's really unfortunate kind of that Pentax is not a more popular brand, because that camera is something special. If they could just update the autofocus and keep building cameras like this, I think that there's definitely a market for it. Or maybe there's a market based on my video reviews that I'm just not aware of. But I know this camera is an older one, and so maybe with the K1 Mark III, if they ever make it, would have, I guess, improved autofocus. Although, guys, honestly, I gotta be honest with you, I've seen the Ricoh GR3 and GR4. I don't know if Pentax or Ricoh has the knowledge, the technical know-how to make Sony, Canon, Nikon, maybe Olympus for sure, autofocus type cameras. Now I'd say even Panasonic. I didn't throw Fuji in there because even though Fuji's better, it's still, you have to know how to use Fuji. I'm using Fuji right now. It takes a special knowledge base to make that work. Anyways, guys, that's just my first 5 days impression of this camera. It's unlike anything I've ever held. It feels like the Leica of DSLRs. And it's really held back by its autofocus, at least with this lens on it, for me. Which I do a lot of moving kids. I do a lot of like sports stuff too. So maybe I'm an idiot for grabbing this camera, thinking it could do that. And so I have to think about if I want to keep this camera for landscape and portraits and kind of like be a collector and leave it on the shelf, because I think this camera will be a cool camera down the road. I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts? Pentaxians don't kill me. As you guys know, I like to give honest reviews, and that's my thoughts so far. I will use this a bit more, and I will come back with probably a final review after a little bit. But 5 days in, that's my initial thoughts. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.